All right.
like some secure e-commerce templates.
Okay, the easiest thing to do is just make a plain old web page. Just some basic HTML commands is all you need. Okay? And on that web page, just put a form. I mean, you can do it in Word. You can do it in anything. Just have one picture, have a text box and a button and a field. You know, text box, text field, and a button. That's all you need. And all that has to do is submit to a script. I can give you a script if you need one, written in ASP. There's tons of them. What will happen is you would make a post action for your form. Now, here, let's try this. I bet I could go on here, basic HTML script to read form. There's got to be tons of them out there. There's W3 Schools. They'll tell you how forms work. There you go. And input elements, all you're going to need is a text box, a submit button, and so there's your text box. Rename it to description or something. You don't really need a radio button, but you need a submit button.
Why do we need a text box?
Because I want you to type in something, some text, so that when you submit the button, you can actually see the text was viewable in the non-SSL version, but is encrypted in the other version.
I thought we were buying something.
Right, you're going to have a product, quantity of one, and description. Just personalization, whatever.
Okay.
The whole point is when I buy this on the non-encrypted side, if I put in my name is Ken Dewey as the personalization, I should be able to read that perfectly. If you do the same thing with an SSL certificate, I shouldn't be able to read anything. We're actually making a project for mobile device, and we found that Google actually does a really good job encrypting email. Because we did real basic stuff, and I couldn't find it for nothing in the encrypted traffic. It's like, couldn't find anything. I mean, I couldn't see where it was going to, who it was coming from, or nothing. The entire conversation was encrypted, which sucked, because I wanted the students had to be able to find it. I'm like, it's not there. So, I mean, W3 Schools has examples of everything. Okay? Just look. I mean, see there, first name, last name. So you could have first name could be your quantity. Last name could be your color. Perfect. Hit submit. And they even tell you the form action. This one's in PHP, exactly what to do. So it's not hard to do. Okay? They'll even tell you how to get the data. They should have the script here somewhere. Normally they give you a sample of the PHP script on the back end.
Are we going to need to use PHP or just simple HTML?
You're going to need something. You cannot capture a form with strictly HTML.
Okay.
The HTML has to post to something. They'll show you an example here. See, form action, you got guest, but then you got post, which means it's posting it to something. And that you need the data to transfer across. I don't care if you email it. You could actually even just set up a mail to link in there. You could actually have it when you go to buy something, it automatically emails it to someone. That's a real basic one. But that's where the data gets captured, when it gets sent from the page to the script. So, yeah, you can do real basic mail to form. That'll solve your entire thing. Here, let's do a basic HTML mail to form. Send email to a form, or send email from a form. There it is, with a backend script. So a lot of these are probably really more than you need. Come on. See, here it is. Form action on this one is mail to. Okay. And this will literally just take this content and send it in an email. So that's really all you need.
We won't need an email server for that, right?
No, I mean, you put in your Gmail offer address or anything you want in there. What this means is it would take whatever you enter in this text box, this text area. In other words, you can see there's an example. The name, the email address, and the comments. Whatever you enter in those are just mailed to this address. That will work. That's really all you need for this entire script.
Okay.
So there you go, basic web page. You can even copy this page and just change it a little. Yeah, this is not a HTML class. So, all right, and the way I found that is I typed in basic HTML mail to form, and it was the second one on the list. I'm assuming they would both work. I bet this one does just as easy. Oh, there, the HTML's even there. You can just copy. Copy and paste, done. Okay, pretty simple. So, yeah, what HTML, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I says, you know any programming? Oh, yeah, I can program HTML. I'm like, no, that's not really programming. That's really cutting and pasting and making something bold. It's really all HTML is.
I like when they can program in HTML in Dreamweaver.
Yeah. It's like here. I mean, come on. This isn't really programming. This is nothing more than tags. The form starts here, form ends here. This makes a break, line break. This just makes an input field. It's not really programming. So there's a perfect example of what to copy, and you'll be fine. I need each group to let's see, did I make a Dropbox for this thing? I did, didn't I? If you'll go ahead and post something to the Dropbox of tell me what you want, in other words, group 2 would like whatever. That way I can know what server to give you. And if you want to have multiple ones, that's fine as well. I don't care. Hell, I give you one of each and you can play with it. None of them are all that difficult. But I did put some links in the video or in the content page right here. There's a link of how to actually install a certificate to server on 2003, which is probably the easiest. But there's Google searches for those 3 as well. There's tons of them out there. And if you don't know how Google works, you can click on this and it'll actually search it for you. And then you click search. And then if you want to see a video of how to do it, just click on the video button. There you go. How to install server certificate server of 2003. How to install cert install. There are tons of them. What you really need is just a standalone certificate authority. Right there. Certificate authority practice on Windows Server 2003 video.
This is Chris, and welcome to some certificate practice.
There you go. So there's plenty of examples on there. Okay? Hopefully that helps you guys a little. At least you know where to start. I'm actually kind of impressed some of you are starting early, which is decent. There's normally the group that doesn't start until the day before it's due. All right, now we need to talk about SSL, because this is what this project involves around, okay? What is SSL? First of all, do y'all agree that server compromise is an issue? We actually have the issue today. We still have issues, even with SSL. Even with OpenSSL, they had that of, what was the name of the? Heartbleed, but there was one that began with F. It was, can't think of the name of it, but one just happened as well. Heartbleed was probably the biggest one, but there was another one. But there's a lot of vulnerabilities they're finding in it. Speaking of vulnerabilities, how do you think people find these vulnerabilities?
Looking.
Yeah, they just sit there and look all down. We got a door right here in the classroom that's locked. But I bet you if we took enough people and had enough time, they could figure out a way to get in this door.
Just run nmaps.
Yeah, I mean, if you try hard enough. When I went to an ethical hacker class a while ago, I can't remember the exact tool we used, but this guy showed where you could actually, you ever buy something on the internet, hence you're making a server to buy something, but when you buy something, what happens is that a lot of times it'll load the page with the price on it. Then when you click purchase, it transfers the price from that page to like a shopping cart or something, which is actually a very bad way of programming. Do you have any idea why that would be bad?
You can edit the price.
You can edit the price in transit. And there's actually tools, I can't think of the name of the one we use, we can actually, when you hit submit on a web page, this will capture your submit, but not post it yet.
Like Burp Suite or...
Yeah, very close. Yeah, Burp Suite's one of those. But then you can actually go in and edit it. And he was showing an example where they bought a jacket, a leather monogram jacket, $800 jacket for like 8 cents. Because they captured it in transit, changed it to 8 cents, basically just took off the zeros, and hit submit, and then it actually, because what they should have done is, yeah, I bought this jacket, and when it goes to the shopping cart, they should be querying the price again, but they weren't. They were just, whatever was transferred over is what they were paying.
They didn't validate the input.
Right, they didn't exalt. It wasn't validated, it wasn't nothing. So It's kind of scary, and by the ability of, they were able to read that data is what sucks. You know, you shouldn't be able to read it, okay? So the attack penetrated on external networks. We have integrity, we have confidentiality. People could start changing stuff. That's not a good sign. Problem way back when is privacy. Now, way back when the internet first started, was there any privacy? No, we didn't care. I mentioned in one of my classes how I used to live on Tinker. And had an issue when I moved off base because they issued me like 3 or 4 keys. I never locked my door. I never, the entire time I lived there. I mean, we got literally security guards and fences. It's kind of secure. But when I moved off, I had to give them back the keys, and I didn't have the keys. So I had to pay them for the keys that I never used, that I lost over the years living there. So privacy on the web, we didn't care about that at the beginning, which kind of sucks, okay? Do y'all lock your houses, your doors of your houses now? I mean, it's getting to the point we have to, because it's, heck, our neighborhood, we had a new guy move in. Weekend one, someone drove into his backyard and stole his, you know, real long utility trailer for all his lawn mowing equipment. Weekend one of living there. And it's like, nothing is safe anymore. Okay. Also, we have various operating systems. You know, some people like one, some people like another. That's an issue. And also the numerous applications. So we had a lot of problems with it. The solution was SSL, Secure Socket Layers. Really didn't care the platform, really didn't care the application, and it made it secure. Okay? All right, let's talk a little bit about client side. We have a client making a connection to a server, and it waits for a response. It's kind of like me calling you and then you responding to me. Same kind of thing. We also have proxy based. That means we're going through somebody. Okay? Rose State, at least they're not doing it right now, but a while back, I had to connect to this specific website at a specific port to submit our CNSS certifications. Well, we don't have to do that anymore, but at that point, that port was blocked by Rose State. So what I did is Rose State set me up a proxy, so I went through a proxy server, so that server would go out and get the data and bring it back and relay it to me, okay? So, proxy is active relay, can be used to modify parts of protocols, also redirect. Proxies are also good for things like scanning it, you know, removing pornography, removing whatever, removing Java, whatever in the searches you make, okay? You can also have tunneling, which goes through a secure connection. All right, SSL works across email, works across web traffic, works transport layer, network layer, can work across anything. So pretty nice features to it, okay? It says negotiate and employs essential functions to secure the transaction. We have mutual authentication. In other words, I verify that it's a bank and they verify that it's me. Now, you do agree that when you log into your bank, you provide them with a username and password. Okay? The way the authentication works with that is they are authenticating themselves to you via an SSL certificate. You connect to your bank, it transfers the certificate to your browser, and it verifies that really your bank. And they verify it's you based on the username and password. Could they not just install a certificate on your machine to verify you? They could. The problem with that is they, first of all, have to get me the certificate. I have to install it on every machine I was ever going to use. It would be a lot of, basically it's not good. Like military, a lot of them do that. They actually install certificates so it automatically authenticates you between them. Okay?
That card reader is a real pain.
And it's like the CAT cards they use in the military. It's got a certificate built into it. That's how they authenticate you. It's a certificate that was issued to you. You have your CAC reader, you read it, and it works fine. But it gives us mutual authentication, gives us encryption and integrity. Encryption is a big deal. You don't want people to read what you're doing. Okay, and it's getting to the point now, you know, I read an article, someone was saying, why don't we just encrypt everything on the internet? What do you think, should we?
Possibly.
We could.
You know,
What are some drawbacks if we encrypted everything?
I mean, it's the classic security triangle. As you veer away from ease of use, you get closer to security versus. It's not as easy to use at that point.
Right, it's not as easy to use. First of all, okay, Mr. Joe Schmo hosting a little old website would have to have a certificate. It's going to cost him money. It's going to have harder for him to configure. It's going to be harder for me to use. I'm going to have login credentials for everything now. So it'd be nice to have, but there's a lot that, like our main Rose website, rose.edu, should that be encrypted? The main page, we're not talking when you log into enroll in classes. The main Rose page should not be encrypted because we want people who don't have an account to come and see it. Can you imagine if, you want to view Rose's website, create an account? I ain't doing that. A lot of times I'll go to the website and I don't feel like creating an account. I'll say, forget you. But encryption integrity is kind of important. Economy and mechanism says security mechanism should be as simple as possible. I will tell you, these are on the exam. Economy and mechanism is on there. Should be as simple as possible. We don't want it so confusing and hard to use that people can't figure it out. I'm real big with my stepchildren. I'm kind of forcing them to figure things out. It's driving them crazy, but at what point in your lives did you start, y'all use a hammer, I'm assuming. Okay? At what age did you learn how to correctly use a hammer, do you think? I'm talking, you hold it by the end and you swing and hit a nail.
Maybe 4 or 5.
4 or 5. I mean, I was helping my dad forever. My stepkids, their dad does nothing, and they have never learned to use a hammer correctly. They would literally hold the hammer right up by the head and go straight up and down with it. That's not a hammer. So for them, using a hammer was difficult. But I'm teaching them how to do that stuff. And for the entire website, internet, we want it to be easy. We have a prime example is our secretary in there, not Stephanie. And she has a really hard time figuring basic things out. And if you make it more difficult, what happens? It makes it harder for them to figure out. We have training sessions. It always drives me crazy. I see we're offering a training session on how to use Microsoft Outlook. I don't know about you guys. I've never had a class in Outlook. Why have I not had a class in Outlook? Because it's intuitive. It's like email. I'm going to click new email. I want to do a calendar, click on calendar. But there's people that have a hard time figuring that out. And the moment you make stuff even harder, that's a whole other batch of people that are not going to be able to figure it out. So it makes it very, very tough, okay? Now, a funny thing about that, I was actually in Walmart the other day. I was buying a really cheapy picture frame. I went into the picture frame aisle, needed 5x7. I looked for the cheapest, and it was like $1.75. I got to the cash register, and there was no sticker on it. So the guy took my word for it. I said it was $1.75, so he overrode the price. But I saw him bring up this screen to overrode the price, and it has this keyboard. It wasn't in QWERTY format. It wasn't regular alphabetic format. It was in the most bizarre format ever. It was like A, B, clear, C, D, this button was like, because he was having to do all this. I'm like, dude, that is the stupidest keyboard I've ever seen in my life. He goes, yeah, this thing, so confusing to use. In my opinion, economy and mechanism, they went way off the side with that keyboard. So next time you go to Walmart, tell them to manually enter a price, and you'll see that keyboard. It's like, wow, that was the craziest thing ever. Okay, psychological acceptability. Security mechanisms should not make the resource more difficult to access than if mechanisms were not present. So if I had so much security on this door, now I can't even get through. That's a little excessive what we're looking at. Shouldn't make it any more difficult. And another aspect of that is I used to have a maid that would come clean my house. She came once a week to clean the house. And I didn't like being there when she cleaned the house. Because it was kind of like, I'm not going to sit there and watch you mop my floor. I could do it myself. But since I hired you to do it, I don't want to sit there and watch you do it. But I bought a biometric lock for the front door. I said, I'll just put her fingerprint in the front door. That way I didn't have to be there at all. She could show up whenever. She would not put her fingerprint into that lock. She's like, oh, no way. She wouldn't touch it for anything. Exactly. It's the devil lock. The point is, it wasn't acceptable to her. That's for darn sure. Okay. Mutual authentication. We already mentioned this a little bit, but we have to mutually agree on who's who. Okay. Certificates are the easiest way. A signed certificate from your bank or from wherever. But the client side, like it says here, is optional. It's not done a lot. Okay, especially when we have public computers out there. That's where we have our usernames and passwords and other stuff that can be an issue. Data encryption obviously gives us privacy, confidentiality. You don't want people, is there some stuff you do at home that you wouldn't want people to see? Yeah. I mean, other than surfing porn. No. I was-
that's really all I was thinking about. Like,
I was
Of course.
filing my taxes this weekend. Yeah, I still haven't filed them, by the way. I still have to make changes until I don't owe any money. But I was filing my taxes. And do you think I would really want the entire world to be watching me file my taxes? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Okay? How about support for different algorithms? You know, this project, I've already had some groups that say they want 2003, some groups that want Ubuntu. Can you imagine if encryption only worked one way? We only can encrypt using this. No, it wouldn't be a good thing. So different algorithms support as well. The integrity ensures no one tampers with it. Make sure that deposit I got is actually correct. Make sure it's, you know, the bottom part there, avoid replays. Way back when, back in early 90s, working on my first master's degree, and my networking teacher showed us a video, which I have no idea where it is now, but showed us a video of an ATM, of one of the very first replay attacks. Someone actually recorded the ATM conversation. Because it was actually through a phone line. They recorded it onto a tape recorder and kept playing it back to the machine over and over. And the machine kept dumping money out. And the way they caught the guy is a cop drove by and saw a guy standing with the ATM with a bag, just pouring cash into the bag. That's how they caught the guy. But, I mean, that's been fixed now. But back then, you really could just play something back over and over and over. When I was at University of Tulsa, I had to write a network sniffer. And I wrote it so I could capture the traffic and view it. And I was always like, could I? In theory, if I had captured myself printing something, couldn't I just replay it and print it again? The problem is the whole handshake. Now we use three-way handshake, and at that point it was actually through encryption, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But now you can't, the whole replay, you actually have to authenticate. You know, I send you something, I'm looking for a certain response back, you know. So that is all gone nowadays. Yes, sir?
Is that why, like, say for instance, somebody wants to illegally have a copy of Windows, you actually have to create a server to send it out and then send something back now?
Yeah, you actually, right, you actually have to, yeah, for the most, but, you know, that's not totally true anymore. It's like,
They made an app now, I think.
see, a copy of Windows now, you can get different serial numbers for it, and depending on the serial number, it can actually be installed multiple times. Like the one we have here at Rose State, can be installed unlimited times. Because we actually bought a site license for it. Normally, like you guys, your home use, you would have to install it, and you know, install it. I think you only get one, maybe two installs, and you have to get a new serial number for them. But yeah, things change. So, all right, SSL to SS 2 to 3 says weakens authentication key, has a 40-bit. Okay, vulnerability message authenticator has a different algorithm built into it. Uses a block cipher attack. Says leaves padding length field unauthenticated. What a block cipher is. We talk about this in computer security. Okay, a block cipher means you take a certain block of text and encrypt the entire thing at one time. Okay, so it could be padded, but like it says, the padding length field is unauthenticated, which means we can figure out how much data is going across. With SSL, you really wouldn't want people to know how much data you're sending. But since the padding length field was unauthenticated, you know, they could see. Okay? And also there was a cipher suite rollback attack. We're not going to cover it, but that was another issue with it. Here's some of the goals of 3.0. It was actually made by Netscape, by the way, which is actually still out there. It says SSL should be used to establish a secure connection between two parties. Okay? Interoperability works with everything. It says independent programs should be able to develop applications using SSL 3, then be able to exchange the parameters without knowledge of the other's code. Have you guys ever heard of the London Eye? No one's ever heard of it? That big Ferris wheel they built in London. That big, it's supposed to be over there for the 2000th anniversary, whatever, but, or whatever anniversary it was, but they built it. It's supposed to be up there temporarily. And I was watching a video of the making. I love watching those making of videos. Well, they were behind schedule making those cars, the pods people climb into. So what they did is they farmed out the making of the specialty glass to all these different companies all over the world. Italy, France, Germany, I mean, even Asia was making some of them. And I'm watching this, and it says, okay, you know, then they started arriving, and they fit. I just, you know, I'm one of those that has to measure something like 5 times, and it's still going to be wrong. But can you imagine writing software that other people, not knowing how it actually works, it'll work with it? That's what we're talking about here, interoperability. So to excessively exchange cryptographic parameters without knowledge of the other one's code. Okay, in Java, I make, like in one of my Java programs, I give them the class file, and they have to write the other part for it to work with it. And the students are like, no, I always have students who modify the class file. I says, no, that's what I gave you. You have to use this exactly. But it was stupid. I said, it doesn't matter. Your code has to work with my code. There has to be interoperability between the two. And it's just, you know, what do we make here in the United States right now? Do we make anything anymore?
New Balance shoes.
New Balance shoes. We make a few things in the United States. Most things are not made in the United States. But can you imagine buying something from China, giving them the specifications, and you get it and it's not what they say it was supposed to be?
So half the time you order stuff from China.
Yeah, so it'd be an issue. That's kind of what we're talking about here. We're making an algorithm that will work with whatever. As long as you follow the requirements, it's going to work. Okay, extensibility, it says SSL provides to provide a framework in which the new public key and bulk encryption methods can be incorporated as necessary. In other words, we can add different functionality to it. Protects the need to create a new protocol, avoids the need to implement an entire new security library, and we will actually be covering public key next week with PGP. But public key, a real brief explanation of it is, it's called public-private key. Okay, I can take a key and publish it on the internet. Okay, and if you download that key, you can use it to encrypt something. So you download my public key, encrypt something using my public key, I'm the only one that can open it because I'm the only one who has the answer to it, or the other part of the key, which makes it kind of nice. So I can download a certificate from my bank from the internet, and then my bank can verify that it's the correct one. They work together. So we're going to cover that a whole bunch more next time. Okay? Relative efficiency. I don't like the word relative. Okay? It says cryptographic operations tend to be highly CPU intensive, particularly public key operations. A lot of math's involved. Okay? Wait till you get into computer security and look at AES. It's quite a bit of math. It's not difficult for computers, but it's still quite a bit of math. So for that reason, SSL has incorporated an optional session caching scheme to reduce the number of connections that need to be established from scratch. What do you think about a session caching scheme? What that means is when I go to log into my bank, it's going to remember and use those credentials for a certain length of time. Is that good?
No.
I would say yes and no. Yes, it's good because it's remembering it. I don't have to keep logging in every 5 seconds. But just the fact that it's remembering it is also kind of scary.
If it remembers it, it's saving it somewhere.
It's saving it. It's probably only in memory. But how do we know someone's not going to exploit that memory? So I'm always kind of weary on that. Like our D2L system here. If I'm not active every so many minutes, it's actually I think 2 hours, it'll cut me off. Did you guys ever get that? You've been away for a while.
Yeah.
In other words, it is timed out. Park University's new system, I left it on, I think, Monday through Thursday last week. Logged in 4 days. Never had to re-authenticate or nothing. And that's kind of scary. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Yeah, it's saving bandwidth to re-authenticate, but it's like, ooh, that's kind of scary. And in the last statement, additionally, care has been taken to reduce network activity. Yeah, we're making it faster on the network and less activity, but I don't know, that whole caching kind of scares me a little bit. Okay, a little bit about public key. We take a message, we encrypt it with a private key, then the only one that can open it is the public key. It says, we're actually, again, we're going to do a project in this. We'll talk about it next week. But it's problem, unless you know exactly what you're encrypting, it's never a good idea to encrypt something with your private key. Instead, encrypt the digest. Okay. This says your person would have a hard time finding a different message that compute the same message. What we're talking about there is what a digest is. Imagine me taking a textbook and figuring out, counting up the values in the textbook, the number of A's and the number of B's and the number of C's, and doing a mathematical calculation to come up with a specific number. What are the odds that any other book in the world would have the same exact number? Zero. Unless it's the same exact book. Okay? So that's what we're talking about here. The message digest is take the message and encrypt the digest of it rather than the actual message. Because the odds of somebody else being able to write the same message and come up with the same result is zero. Okay? Message digest or a fingerprint cryptographic checksum pretty much all the same way. Another way of thinking about a one-way hash function, I cover this in another class, but take like my windshield. I'm assuming we all drove here today. We all have windshields. What happens when you smash your windshield? I mean, totally smash it.
It goes into a million pieces.
It goes into a million teeny tiny pieces.
Safety glass.
Could you ever take those pieces and put the windshield back together?
Theoretically, you could.
Theoretically, if I had an unlimited amount of time, okay? But basically the point is you take that windshield into this pile of pieces. It would be very hard to reverse that process and take those pieces back into the windshield again.
Not just that, half the time the windshield you get isn't the windshield you were looking for anyway.
Right. So that's kind of what a one-way hash function is. You can process it one way, but you can't go back the other way. Okay? Impossible to derive the original text from the hash function. Okay? Input, and we want input to be any length, but the output has to be a fixed length. So if I'm encrypting a letter to my mother, the Bible, or the Encyclopedia Britannica, no matter what I'm encrypting, the results must be the same length. That's kind of cool. That's what they're talking about here. The output is the same length. Okay? And then don't worry about the math behind it, but it's one way, and it's collision free. What collision free is, so if I took those same windshields and if I broke two of them separately, what are the odds that those two windshields that were broken create the same pile of pieces? Exactly the same pile of pieces. It's not going to. There's no way. Same thing here, if I encrypt two different messages, you don't want them to ever come up with the same hash value. Okay?
That could suck.
What?
I said that could suck.
Yes. Okay. Asymmetric versus symmetric. Asymmetric, the encryption key and decryption key are different. This is also called public-private key. Okay? It says encryption decryption is usually 10 to 100 times slower than symmetric. So why would I use something if it's slower? Well, especially with SSL, because I want to authenticate with my bank that's on the internet. And I need to be able to download a certificate publicly is why we use this. Symmetric, on the other hand, is actually faster. AES, DES, all symmetric. But the encryption key and decryption key are the same. Okay? Problem is getting the key there. See, with public, private, or asymmetric encryption, I don't have to worry about getting the key there. Still have a slight issue, but not very much at all. Okay? So symmetric normally used for bulk encryption. Okay. SSL, we have the record layer. Okay. It says on top of some protocols. I'm not really worried about you knowing the layers here. We have the alert protocol. This is conveys the security mechanism, the handshake protocol, the chain cipher specification. And we'll see some examples of this here in a minute. Okay. The record protocol encapsulates higher ones. We have the connection, which is the peer-to-peer. Then we also have the sessions. With SSL, you think about it, I'm going to my bank. Obviously, it's going to expand to multiple sessions, so we have to figure out a way to span those. And is this the class where, is this the one where I'm making you guys look at an SSL encryption? I just did that for a class. Which class was that for? I just set one up. It was mobile device. That's what it was. So yeah, just set one up in that class. Okay. So, all right. here's kind of what it looks like. Again, you don't need to know this, is not all that important, but it's layered on top of each other. Different aspects of it are brought in, like the message authentication. It could be fragmented across many protocols. Okay. Some of the parameters, we have a session identifier to keep track of the session. It's normally a random 32-bit number when it starts. How it's compressed. What is our cipher? Is it RSA? Is it DES? Is it triple DES? Is it whatever? Some sort of secret. And is it resumable? Can I continue my communication? Okay. All right, resumption. And can we continue again, basically? Can we resume? Okay. Handshakes are expensive. Let's talk about that for a second. What a handshake is. You know, I'm going to call Aaron over here. So I'm going to say, hey, Aaron, I'm going to dial Aaron's house. Aaron's going to answer my call. Said, hey, Ken, this is Aaron. What can I do for you? And I'm going to say, yeah, this is Ken. I want to talk to you. So that's 3 things we just did without actually accomplishing anything. That's what they're talking about. It's expensive because there's a lot of data at the beginning of there that's not being reused. Okay. We also have to do the authentication. That's the whole certificate aspect of it. Renegotiation if something gets delayed. And it says it's expensive. There's a lot of packets. There's a lot of round trips. There's a lot of computational time. So what happens is SSL slows our machines down. But now that we all have super high-speed internet, not that big a deal anymore. Okay, here is a tcpdump session of regular HTTP. Okay, we have a SYN. So the client sends a SYN request, synchronization request. In this case, it was to the University of Tulsa server. Then that server acknowledges it plus sends an own SYN. Hey, client, I saw you. Now here's my SYN information. Okay. Then the client acknowledges it from the server. So we got 3 things that we really didn't do anything yet. That's called the 3-way handshake. Then we start sending data and do whatever we want to do it. Okay. But basically, total of 5 packets here before we do anything. Now let's look at HTTPS. Okay. This is the actual data dump converted to ASCII. This one's a little bit longer. See, there's actually tons more data. You can see the hash function is RC4. It's using DES and triple DES, depending on which one it uses. SSL using RSA, 128-bit with an MD5 hash. Okay. Then each packet, there's the server hello. Then we should have the client. There's the client key exchange over on the far side. Then there's our actual secret, the 128-bit encryption secret. You'll see that. So there's a lot more data there. Okay. And here's the Handshake Protocol. And yeah, okay. So we have the first one. The client to the server says hello, and they say hello. Phase 2, now the server is saying, okay, now I'm going to send you my certificate, the exchange, the certificate request, and then I'm done. Then phase 3, that could be the client sending this certificate, exchanging the key and verify. And then the change cipher is finished, and then we're pretty much done. But it takes a lot more, and we're going to see more about that in a second. And I'm not going to go into all these in depth. But it's a lot more data, okay? So here's where we come up with a different exchange protocol. We start sending our message, then we wrap it all up. And actually, yeah, there's another slide here, but different applications. We can have HTTP over SSL, which is HTTPS. We could have S-tunnel, SSL wrap, S-telnet, SFTP, Samba, bind, sendmail. There's pretty much SSL works with everything, which is kind of nice. Okay, another view. Okay, we have the client hello. I think this view is actually better. Then the server says hello. Then it says, okay, here's my key, and I'm done. Then the client says, okay, here's my key, and here's the cipher I'm willing to work with. Then it's finished, and then the server basically said, okay, I'm good with that cipher, and then it finishes. Okay, and here it is in English again. The client sends a hello message proposing the options. The server responds selecting the options. So the client says, hey, I'm good with this, this, and this. The server's like, okay, on number 2 there, I'll take such and such. Number 3, the server sends its public key information. So now that's how I'm going to be able to verify the bank. Number 4, the server concludes its part with a hello saying, I'm done now. Number 5, the client sends its key information. Now the key is encrypted with the server's certificate, which we received on step 3, isn't it? Yeah, send on step 3. Number 6, the client sends the cyberspec to activate the negotiated options. Okay, and all future messages will be sent out. In other words, here's how we're going to communicate. Number 7, the client sends it's finished. And number 8, the server responds back to activate the negotiate options. So, okay, those look good to me. Then it's finished on step 9. Okay, it works with JSSE. It works with Bouncy Castle. There's a lot of, this list is outdated somewhat, but pretty much OpenSSL is the most popular at the moment, even though it was a real big issue recently. Okay. But it works with pretty much everything. Okay. All right, spoofing vulnerabilities. Says SSL depends on certificates issued to SSL sites. So a certificate authority issues their certificate. What happens if it gets screwed up along the way, or what happens if someone fraudulently issues it? It says to allow CAs to scale it, they have designated intermediate SSLs. What that means is, so we have VeriSign out there, which is a big certificate authority. Can VeriSign respond to all the requests they get?
No.
Probably not. So they hire other people to clear for them. I do all this mystery shopping I always tell you guys about. And a lot of times if a certain company can't fill the request, they farm out the request to other companies because they have other mailing lists. So they, same thing here. The intermediate CAs help issue certificates for them. And way back when I first started doing my ISP, I had to get some certificates. And I remember one of the very first ones I did, I applied for the certificate. And they came back and like, okay, we need proof of incorporation. Because it's for a client of mine. That was a corporation. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And they said, give me, we have like 8 days to respond. So I contacted the company. It was the first Marine Division organization, whatever. It was a very long name. So I told them I need the incorporation paperwork. They're like, not a problem. We'll get it to you in a couple of days. You know how it goes. You have to talk to one guy, talk to the next, talk to the next. Then about the 3rd day, I get their certificate in the mail. I haven't responded yet with the incorporation paperwork, yet the certificate authority issued their certificate. So what's that got to tell you? They didn't follow through. They wanted proof of the incorporation, yet they never actually waited on the proof. They just gave their certificate. So that means they could have been giving out fraudulent certificates at that point. I could have said, my name's Microsoft, and they said, give us some paperwork, and I could just wait 3 days, and they sent it to me anyway. Actually, they did that quite a few times, but then they stopped doing that. So someone probably realized it's not a good plan. So I think the next couple I asked for, I never got any paperwork. I just waited a couple days, and they appeared. So it's kind of like, wow. All right, IE5 did not check the extensions properly. Obviously, that's gone now. Okay, and there are some SSL sniffing programs out there. Okay, TLS, Transport Layer Security, works along with it, but it's really SSL 3.1. It was open community, it's backwards compatible, it's also secure, and it works great for email and so on and so forth. It's actually still used today. I think it's version 2 though. Does anyone know TLS version? I think it's version 2. Anyone work on the mobile device project yet? Because it's in there. I think it's 2.1. It's in there. Okay. Okay, TLS, they say RFC 5246. I've never heard of an RFC before. RFC stands for Request for Comment. Whenever you want to do something on the internet, you submit what's called an RFC, a Request for Comment. So, hey, my name's Ken Dewey, and I want to implement whatever. So I submit a request for comment. It goes up to the IEEE, and a bunch of people make comments on it. You can actually see RFCs at rfc.org. And a bunch of people make comments, recommendation changes to it. Then once it's finally implemented, it's based on a specific RFC. So RFC 5246, actually, let's find that one. RFC 5246. Let me show you how to see these. If I did RFC 5246. I should go to rfc.org, which itf.org, I'm sorry. It used to be rfc.org. There's rfceditor-org. But you can click on it here, and it'll come up and tell you, this is the Transport Layer Security TLS Protocol version 1.2. Okay? It tells you a brief abstract of it, then how it works. All the different stuff it's going to do. So basically what this means is if you want to write something that implements RFC 2.1, I think, whatever version this was, 1.2 or something, you need to make sure you're compliant with all this stuff, which is quite a bit of stuff. Look at that. It goes on, and actually this is from 2008. It tells you exactly how it must work. And that was that whole thing we mentioned a couple of slides ago about you don't need to know how it works. You just need to make sure it works. And that's what you need to make sure you're compliant with this entire RFC if you want to be TLS compliant. Okay? Oh, and there's actually a link. Duh, there's a link to it right there. It's hard to see the link in the slide, but it is there. Okay. All right, that's the end of the SSL lecture. Now, as I mentioned before, I need you all to go up into your Dropbox and just tell me what you want. Group 2 wants boot.
That's what you
Okay.
said earlier. And
Yeah, just go in there, and if you would like multiple, just tell me, hey, I'd like a Server 2003 and an Ubuntu.
I think group 4 want to do Ubuntu too.
Okay. Just make a comment, that way I can make sure I get the right ones for you. And they won't be graded, it's just more of a, you can spend multiple things in there. But do that just so I know which server you want, then I will create a virtual machine linked to an ISO. Now, if you would like to do this on your own machine, for instance, download VMware Workstation, which we can get for free, I'm fine with that as well. Do it any way you want.
To do workstation, does it have to be done in like vSphere or vSphere?
No, you can run VMware Workstation on your Mac there.
Okay.
Do you want us to bring you the server, like on a USB? Or?
I have most of them.
No, I mean, if we do it at home, like we completely build it at home, do you want us to bring you the file so you can put
No,
it
all I
on
need
phone?
is the final, basically the turn in for this project is, I like to see a screenshot of your website, whatever. And if you want to give me a screenshot of the code, that'd be nice too. Then a screenshot of the traffic that's decrypted, then encrypted, and then tell me why. Okay? Yeah, you could fake it all, but I'm usually pretty good at finding fakes. But I'd like to see you capture some traffic so I could look at, okay, you're selling a car and you typed in the description of, pink Cadillac, and I can read your traffic and it says pink Cadillac over here, but this side I can't read nothing. Yes, sir.
Do you want every group member to turn in the project?
No, just one. Just one. And that actually brings up a very good question. There's always somebody in the group who doesn't want to do a darn thing. Well, then you do it. I mean, just...
They still get credit though, right?
they'll still get credit. Now, that being said, I have had times where I have groups where someone actually contributes absolutely nothing. And the group members tell me, hey, we three worked together pretty good, and Billy Bob over here didn't do a blooming thing. And then I will adjust his grade separately. So don't think by this guy's not doing anything that they're going to get full credit. Now, that also brings up another thing. Try your best to work with your partners. Don't sit there and, just try your best.
We have till the 10th of May?
Yeah, you have like a month. Just about a month to do it. Email them a few times.
So
And they
we
don't
just tell
respond
them
at all until, 5 minutes before it's due. Then leave his name off the paper, whatever you turn in.
If we don't care if they get credit, can we just bring in our own thing and be like, there?
I would rather not look at 5 different copies
Okay.
or 4 different copies. I'd rather look at one. And believe it or not, we have an advisory committee. All kinds of bigwigs on it. And a lot of times they do mention that. Do you do any group work? Because everyone, can you imagine being on the FBI agent and not working with a group member? It's not going to happen.
It'll allow me to run it.
Yeah. But do your best to work with your group. But if for some reason you cannot work with this person, just let me know. Okay. But in the past, I've had, we have tried to contact this guy for 3 weeks straight, couldn't hear nothing. And the guy's like, I've been responding, but I don't think. There's 4 of you in the group, you should be fine. So, all right, everybody okay with SSL?
I think we're planning on having you set up the server and we're gonna SSH.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll give you a machine linked to an ISO.
Okay.
And actually, that's a very good point. I'll put a video up there, but all you do is you go to vc.cyber.rosa.edu, click Advanced, and click Yes, Hurt Me Plenty or something. Proceed here. Download the client right here.
Okay.
When
Is
you
it
ins-
free or?
It's free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally free. I don't think I have
Gives
the...
you an IP you need and your name and your login.
I'll put a video up there for you. Actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, if you didn't know I have one, just go to YouTube. And here's my channel. Where's my channel? Am I logged in here? Oh, I'm not signed in.
Can we just search Ken Dewey?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can do Kenneth Dewey.
It should be the first result.
Yeah, see, there's Kenneth Dewey right there. Then you should see all my, well, there it is, playlists. Then, like, if you went to, like, forensics, for instance, right here.
All right, this is lab 9.
But you should see a recording of using vSphere over here somewhere. It's in most of my classes. Actually, let's look through Ken Dewey. Install and use vSphere. Ta-da, right there, done. So search for Kenneth Dewey, install and use vSphere. Go right there,
All right.
and I tell you exactly how to
Show you
download
how
it.
to access vSphere. Okay. First thing you need to do
So,
is
easy enough, you can download it,
two ways to
install
get
it. What happens is you actually are running a client piece of software to connect to my system that allows you to run anything.
And we can SSH from home with it.
No, because the reason is I don't allow you, I would have to set up NAT tunneling to get through that.
But we can work on it from home.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, you can run this software from home, you can run it from here, you can run it from anywhere.
Okay.
What version of Workstation do you need to download?
Probably 10.
And it just shows Mac or Windows and Linux.
There's got to be, I know there's a version for Mac up there. I'm sure there is. Worst comes to worst, vSphere you can actually run on your Mac as well.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm installing.
That's how I do it at home. I run vSphere from home on my Mac. Now, if I gotta do a lot, I'm running Fusion with Windows 7. I run it that way. But there's got to be a workstation version for Mac out there.
I mean, all the ones we have on the hub thing.
Yeah?
The 7, 8, 9, and 10, they both show Windows and Linux,
Maybe it's 11 then.
which isn't up there.
Well, it's just that Arlene hasn't clicked the box to allow it. So if you email Arlene and say, hey, can we get VMware 11? And it's just a checkbox. When they add something new, we have to say, yes, you can have this now.
Oh, and annoy Arlene.
Yeah, I just don't have the permissions to do that one. All right, so play with this. If you got any questions, please let me know.
Are we having class Wednesday?
Yes, we are having class Wednesday. We are meeting twice a week for the next 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. All right, I did update the schedule. It's right.
Arlene Haynes, is there a message?
A. Haynes, Haynes at Rosa.edu. Man, this is like ungodly slow, isn't it? Okay, and if you go to the course content page, course files, I updated the schedule right here, and I've told you exactly which days and what we're covering.
Does that mean we'll be here on the 14th?
Of May? No.
Okay, good.
We will be done in April. We will be done. Our last lecture will be on the 27th of April. Your test isn't due the 15th of May, which means you actually have a test coming up very quickly, about a week. It's about 7 days, so.
Is it gonna be in class or?
You can take your test at home. I will provide more information on that on Wednesday because after today you have everything you need for the test. Okay? All right, so I think we're done for today. Hopefully everybody watches this.